welcome to From the Ground Up. My name is Leo Kelly. I'm the CEO of Verdance Capital Advisors, and I have the pleasure of hosting From the Ground Up, which is a conversation with business owners and a conversation around their successes, around their struggles, and how they got to where they are today. You're in for an absolute treat today. Today, we're going to be talking with Steve Shaw from Shaw Real Estate. Steve is someone I've known for a long time. He's a friend, he's a partner, and someone I respect. But most importantly, Steve is an old-fashioned grinder. We're going to hear an amazing story today about a successful career that really was on cruise control. And then a moment where Steve, the light went on, the entrepreneurial light. He took risks out of the gate. He had incredible struggles that he had to overcome. And he used the skills and the mindset he developed from a young age, a successful athletic career, to bring success to himself, to the family that he adores, and to his philanthropic ventures, which he's so passionate about. This is going to be a great conversation. So, Steve, welcome to From the Ground Up.
Well, it sounds like I really did something. I was just stumbling along the way.
So I appreciate you being on, and your story is really quite incredible. Maybe you could just start off by talking about your business and what you're doing every day, and what makes you unique in the very, very crowded, competitive marketplace.
So Shaw Real Estate is a local private firm. We have focused from basically the Beltway of DC to the Delaware line. We decided very early that we were going to try to create what I would call an old man's portfolio. Old man portfolio being something that's low leveraged, that gives lots of optionality as time goes on, and is a lower risk profile. And so we did that by beginning to buy value add older industrial properties and repositioning those to be functional assets. We were very fortunate to get into that area of the market while the industrial market got really heated up. And so I always say, dumb luck is my best friend. And so we've worked hard to find properties that we really like. We have been incredibly fortunate to have private partners that have had faith in us and trusted us with their money. And so we've been developing what we feel is an old man's portfolio, which has been the acquisition or development of maybe 20 properties in that region.
And so this is a perfect time to disclose that I am one of the investors in Steve's properties. I am a very happy partner with Steve and have been very impressed. And I, too, am an old man, as witnessed by the snow on the roof here. And you're right, though. Your portfolio is something that putting capital behind feels like it's wealth building. Would that be accurate? Is that the goal?
Yeah, I would hope that it's always the goal. That we're not trying to hit triples and home runs, but if you hit doubles and triples, trying to hit singles, that turns out well. And so we have had good solid equity returns. We also try to pay a hefty dividend. And the real key is, as time goes on with very low leverage deals, to have optionality. And what I mean is optionality is, I've always said, I don't have a plan that I want to exit a property in a certain period of time. I've always felt like the property or the asset tells you what to do with it. And that if it's run its course, if you feel that the best thing is to sell, you should sell. But I didn't want to have the financial aspects of the deal affect whether we sell or not. It should certainly be the asset. But also, I would love to create long-term recurring revenue. And so if we have an asset that has, our average debt is probably 45%, 40%.
That's a far cry from the giddy up and go real estate development world.
Yeah, I think that most people leverage up to get higher returns, but if you can perform at low leverage, I think that's the way you want to be, so that 10 years from now, if the property has gone up 50% in value and your debt has gone down 20% and you have a very low leverage asset, you have the optionality to put debt on it and return money to your partners, pay off the mortgage, Be very flexible with your tenants, and create long-term recurring revenue, which is really the goal.
Yeah. And would you say that's the niche? That's your niche in the real estate world?
I would say so, but it's also
creating revenue.
I think long-term recurring revenue is certainly the game plan. I also feel like I've really tried to stay out of the fairway of institutional capital. So what I don't buy is I don't buy and build a 1 million foot building that every pension fund and private real estate firm wants to be involved with. I try to find assets that are a little bit more clumsy, take a little bit more work, that aren't down the fairway for institutional folks.
Well, and here we are in 2024. In 2022 and 23, we saw the fastest rise in interest rates in percentage terms we've ever seen. We saw essentially interest rates go from 0 to the 10-year of 5%, and it completely upended the commercial property market, but not for you.
Yeah, we've been very fortunate. We still find transactions that we like. And so I've always felt like when you have an opportunity to go and fix your debt and lock it in for a long period of time, you just do it. And it's not about getting rid of that or foregoing the opportunity to increase your returns by having debt fall. It's risk. Yeah. When you take the interest rate risk off the table and lock things in and pay down mortgages over 10 years, that's a powerful place to be. And I think my perspective also is because I'm 60, I've seen average interest rates be 8, 9, 10, 12%. And when you can lock in a 5 or 6% interest rate for a long period of time, you don't bemoan the fact that it used to be 4.
Right. That's right. Well, for anybody listening and not watching, Steve at 60 looks like what we all wish we looked like at 35.
Wish I felt like that.
But that's part of who you are, right? That's part of the discipline. You get up every day. I know you work out, you keep yourself in shape, you're disciplined in your approach to your business, right? That's all part of it, right?
Yeah, I think that early on in life, you get in a system that works for you. And for me, that is you got to take care of yourself. You got to take care of your family. You got to be charitable.
Right.
You got to have the 3-pronged stool. And for me, that is have a great family life and take care of your family and do everything you can possibly do for them. Number 2, it's work your ass off in building your business and outwork everyone that's around you. And the third is the stool is be charitable and figure out what you're going to do for the greater community and how you're going to help people. And those 3 things are what I try to focus on every day.
So for the young entrepreneurs out there, takeaway number 1, I know from the ground up, we talk about the fact that we love to give a few takeaways, something you can put in your pocket. There it was, the 3-pronged approach. That's takeaway number 1. I mean, that really, that's a very sound way to guide yourself through life, right? Take care of family, outwork everybody, and then give back for the blessings that you've received.
Yeah, it's very, very simple. I'm not too smart, so I like to keep things simple.
All right. So this is my first pushback. I've heard you're not too smart, and you have had this extraordinary career, and that you're lucky. And what you may or may not know, Steve, on this show, luck is something we talk about, right? Luck is one of my great pet peeves in life. Because in my view, luck is the recognition of an extraordinary opportunity, which most people don't recognize them, right? They come, they pass by us, and they just go. And then even if you recognize it, it's the willingness to take on the risk that it takes to take advantage of that opportunity, right? Just identifying it, understanding it, being willing to chase after it, and then work your tail off to bring that to fruition. And then at the end of all that, the outside world who missed it in the first place looks at you and say, God, what a lucky guy. Look how well he did.
Right. And it's okay to feel lucky. I think this feeling lucky, I feel lucky I married the woman I married. I feel lucky to have 3 awesome kids. I feel lucky to have all the friends that I have that I adore. But when you're talking about how you get lucky, it starts with hard work.
Yeah.
and you grind it out and you outwork people. And so I remember when my friend Scott Brickman, who's a super successful landscaping guy who started the biggest landscaping company in America, and he's been my friend for over 30 years. And he said, I've been watching you for 25 years, and you grind it out. You put your head down and you go make things happen, and you do good for what you're doing in your family. But one of these days you're going to pick your head up and you're going to look around to see what the other opportunities are. And you're going to see billboards in your face telling you what to do.
Right.
So when you're ready, pick your head up and look around and see the billboards, and they will tell you what to do.
That's it. That's it. The moment, right? The moment.
The moment.
That's great. And by the way, I know your wife and your kids, and yes, you are lucky.
I'm married up.
That's great. And you started the grind. This is a great story. For those who did not go to the University of Delaware or are not in the lacrosse community, which is a big deal around here and outside of Baltimore, Maryland, Steve went to the University of Delaware and had an extraordinarily successful lacrosse career. And he was a grinder. He was a face-off guy. He got down in the dirt, faced off against another strong individual, and had to win the face-off over and over and over again. As a matter of fact, you did it so many times, you set a college record. Can you tell us about that? I know you don't like to, but I'm going to make you.
Yeah, I was very lucky. I adore my teammates, and my teammates are still my best friends. But I was fortunate enough to, when I left college lacrosse, I didn't even know it, but I had set the NCAA face-off record that stood for about 25 years, which was, a lot of ground balls, a lot of face-offs. I think we, senior year, won 77% of our face-offs. But that's a team effort. You don't win those things by yourself. It's 6 men going after a ball. And so, it's just like everything else. You get down, you pick up the ball. It seems simple, but you just pick up the ball and you give it to others and let them do good things with it.
Yeah. So a direct translation, right, from that work ethic, right? Paint that comparison between your business, because you didn't just walk in one day and say, "Hey, I've got quick hands. I can get ground balls. I can win faceoffs."
No, it just kind of happened.
Right.
And I found that I was good at picking up the ball off the ground, and I had a mental state that I thought was good for that. Always felt like the ball was mine.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it was on the ground, it was mine, and I was going to get it, and no one was going to keep me from getting it. And I just think tenacity, whether it's trying to be a good dad or trying to be good at what you do every day, or try to make a difference in somebody else's life, or trying to be a really good friend and support people, that kind of tenacity is really important. And I feel like I'm just really lucky that I've always felt like I had this inner drive to be tenacious.
Well, there's a direct parallel here, right? So when you talk about your career and people talk about your career, right? You did that so well. You were the best at your craft. You weren't worried about how many goals you scored, right? You weren't worried about you just did your job. And you did it the best you could to help the team around you. And that translates directly to, hey, I'm not trying to do a 70% leverage deal and hit home runs until what happens? Until 2022 happens, right? And interest rates shoot up, and all the people that are over levered are scrambling around wondering what's going to happen with their business. And here you are. You're still just getting ground balls. You're still just looking for deals. You're still grinding reoccurring revenue out. I think there's a parallel there that I think people should think about, right? Be the grinder.
I also think that challenges in life expose character, right?
Yeah.
And so I was very fortunate that the first 15 years of me being in commercial real estate, the commercial real estate was awful.
Yeah.
Okay, Merritt Properties almost failed as one of the biggest private real estate developers in the area. And looking back, if you said, why didn't Merritt Properties fail? Because it could have. is because Leroy Merritt was a man of his word. And that doesn't start the day that the shit hit the fan. That started 50 years earlier when he started building buildings and was a block layer and did what he said he was going to do. And so I just feel like I've always been fortunate to be surrounded by people that I could watch, that their word meant everything and their effort meant everything and how they took care of people meant everything. And so when he got in a difficult situation, the bankers were more willing to work with him because he stood behind his word and he said, I'll take care of this and I will do it right. And he lost a lot of money doing it right. But what he had is he had himself and he had his word and he had his ethics. And you don't create your reputation on that day. You created that reputation starting when you were 16.
That's right. That's right. It's like I say all the time, right? When even athletes, going back to your athletic career, you don't get strong by lifting one heavy weight.
Yeah.
You get strong just by doing it over and over.
Yeah.
And so he was a great mentor for you.
He was incredible. He wasn't a father figure. He was more like a cool uncle. But he was a great man, and he quietly took care of others all the time.
Right.
And I just love that.
Great. And is he the guy who inspired? Because I know you like to do mentoring.
Yes.
You talk to a lot of young folks. You talk to kids from Delaware, but you also talk to other kids. I know you love doing that. Is that where you took your inspiration?
I think I took that inspiration was from really two people. My father, who my father said to me very early on, I really didn't have anybody to talk to about my business career who could help guide me and I could bounce things off of. I had to go and learn it all myself every time.
Right.
And the other one was a guy named Bill McGurk, and Bill McGurk was an immensely successful guy in Baltimore. He was chairman of the Baltimore Sun Mercantile and Hopkins Hospital and had 15 children and lived on a farm up in Harford County. And he was really one of my first out-of-family mentors and taught me so much. And I always felt that he inspired me to be better than I really was.
So takeaway number 2 for our successful business folks is have those conversations, right? Have those conversations and bring the young kids in and give them your story and help them kind of develop their story. I think that's great. So let's go back to Shaw. What would you tell as a mentor, young Steve Shaw, at Merritt? You eventually went into business. Would you tell young Steve Shaw to have done it sooner?
That's really amazing because I talk to a lot of young people and they'll say, well, I've been in the brokerage business for 3 years, so I think it's time to go out on my own.
Right.
And I was in business with 2 developers for almost 30 years before I left.
Right.
And I always feel like I'm my most challenging critic. And I felt like I really needed to know everything I could know about the development business. And I had gone through some very, very difficult times and saw how bad financing hurts you and how just bad markets hurt you, that you have no fault of your own. And so I felt like in looking back, I have no regrets that I waited 30 years to leave Merritt. Merritt was an amazing place to be. It was a special culture and a special company, and they gave me a lot more than I gave them.
Right.
But I tried to give them all I could every day.
Yeah, that's great. And as you know, I had the same, right? I was at Merrill for a long time, and I thought I'd retire there, and it was a great company. Then Bank of America bought them out, and that was the catalyst to change. And I don't think I would tell young Leo to do anything different, right? I gained enough experience to know how to do it on my own. And the time was right. So the time was right for you at a moment. Tell me about that moment. What was the catalyst, and what were those early days like? What were the early challenges where you looked at it? Was there a moment where you look back as we did when we were 120-hour weeks trying to bring clients over from Merrill to our new business, where you look and say, deep breath. Okay. Could walk me through that early transition?
Yes. So, I was 50 years old. I'd been with Merritt for, I guess, 27 years. And I said, I don't know if I can look in the mirror, number one, when I've been with Merritt for 37 years and say, I didn't try it myself.
Yeah.
So that was number one. Number two is, and I've talked about this with my wife. I have dear members of my family. My parents were getting older. I have one sister. My wife has siblings. And I thought if something ever happens to any of them and they need financial help or some form of assistance, they're going to look at me. Mm. And I'm not doing enough with my skill set. I got to be able to send my kids to any college they want to go to. I got to be able to take care of my aging parents if they need help.
Right.
I got to be able to step up, and I'm not doing the best with what I can. So I got to go out and give it a shot and go do it myself.
So a sense of responsibility.
Yeah, and I feel responsible for my family and friends and the things I love, and so I want to be someone that can be helpful when needed.
So how about those early days? Talk about those early days.
So not a lot of sleep. One of the things I think we had talked about at one point in time was what's the difference between being at Merritt and having your own business? And the one thing that's different is the day never ends.
Right.
Never.
Right. Absolutely.
And so, you sleep, and as soon as you get out of REM, man, your mind starts going, and you're downstairs making a list of 80 things you need to do the next day at 3:30 in the morning. And so I think that's great. And it was invigorating. And I feel like my testosterone, I felt like I was in a game every day. I was getting knocked around, and I was going to knock some people around. I was going to go after it every day. I was in a game.
Ground balls.
Yeah. My friend said to me, Steve, the great thing about business is it's just like lacrosse. Every day you put your uniform on, you go out there and knock the shit out of people, and you have a beer when it's over, and you take a shower, and you go home, and then you do it all again the next day.
Do it tomorrow.
So, and I think that's true. So, but I you had some
challenges.
Yeah, I feel like the big wake up call for me was I'd left, and I didn't have any deals. I didn't have any partners. I didn't have any idea. Right. I just got started. And one of the most amazing things is I came home on a Friday, and I said to my wife, get a glass of wine, sweetie. We got 3 kids in private school. I'm quitting on Monday. And so she, what she said? She said, I am so excited to watch you because you're like a caged lion. And when you get out of the cage, you're going to do great things.
Oh, that's it. That's
and
what
so
you need.
That kind of support is really, really special. Yeah. And so she's been there every day through it in such a very positive way. She's an amazing lady. So a week into my decision to leave, I find a deal. It's a great deal. I put it under contract, and I have somebody who's begging to be my partner, and they go out of town. They come back, and then they said, "Oh, never mind. I'm not going to be your partner." And
about that critical capital that you need.
And this was a really quick deal, and so I kind of sat there. I was in this office by myself, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is what it's like." I had at my old firm, I had independence, and I had $100 million line, and did what I thought was right, and it was relatively easy, right? Well, that was over, and so I had to go find a partner, and I found a partner, and it ended up being a great transaction. But I also found in that first year that the challenges kind of kept coming. In that, for some reason, I had a little health scare, and they thought I had some kind of artery issue, and I had to go in for an emergency procedure, and it ended up being nothing. Yeah. But it was a little scary. It made me write letters to my family, just because but kind of helped me focus and stay focused. And then shortly after that, one of my main partners committed suicide, and he was an amazing man. That I deeply loved. And so I had a bunch of kind of shocking things happen very early on that just, all those kinds of things just help you stay and remain focused and remain focused on what's important. And what's important is your family, and what's important is doing the right thing and taking care of partners. And I feel like the thing that's most important to me is that my partners feel that, their money is more important than mine. And so I feel like if every day I take care of my partner's money more importantly than mine, then that's what they're hiring me to do, is do the best I can. And I tell you, that's one thing that I think we have a lot in common, because you care so much about your partners and their investment of faith in you and your team and your group. And I think that's why the culture of your firm is so special. And I've had a chance to watch it and be part of it. And I think there's a lot of similarities there. I only have 3 people, but I feel like the culture's the same.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'll say it. I'm lucky.
Yeah.
Fact. I got good partners.
Fact.
It's a wonderful thing. Wow. I mean, wow. So that year one, I mean, that's amazing, right? That you just head down, right?
Just keep your head down, keep focusing. And really, the 3 transactions that we created in that first year are our most successful. Wow. And so that was fortunate. Well,
it gets you focused, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, this is going to sound strange, but it was a gift, right? It was a gift that you had this scare, but it turned out to be nothing. But it gave you a moment, right? It gave you a moment of clarity that you could have a moment with your family to talk about what they mean to you, and you could be open and honest. And then it turns out to be nothing. And boy, talk about creating focus in your life to drive. I mean, I can only imagine I can only imagine right after the moment where you found out how that was just absolute rocket fuel into your, into what you were trying to do.
No question about it. I think I've always felt in my life that I want to be 100% sure that everyone in my life knows exactly how I feel about them.
Yeah, you do that.
That there's no question that my friends, my family, the people I am with, really completely understand what I think about them.
Yeah.
And one of my life rules is, when you think it and it's positive, say it.
Yeah. No, you're a very, very positive person. It's one of the things that's so attractive to pulls people into you. Michelle, I just want to say I love you. I think you're fantastic.
I was waiting for that. I was waiting for that moment, so I appreciate that you brought me in.
Yeah,
me too.
Steve has that impact on people. So in tenure, so I know your son just started working for you, and I know you still have one who's in school getting ready to come out. You have another daughter who's very successful in the real estate world as well. What's that like? And it's a 2-part question. Tell me about that. I have it. I have 3 kids. I would love for my kids to be in the business one day. It's a tricky road to walk and a path to walk, but it does make you excited about the future of what you're building. My partners as well. They have kids. I think there's something about people that want their kids to be a part of it. Says something about how much they love what they do. Not always, right? Because there's some businesses you can't transition. But tell me about that, and maybe transition the question from that. And what does Shaw Real Estate look like in 10 years? What is your vision? Because that's right. Great entrepreneurs, they see clearly what they're going to, even though other people can't. I would say the flaw of great entrepreneurs, and I was told this by a really smart guy who made me think about myself in a different way. And he said, Leo, you're constantly looking out and you see clearly out to the future. He says, you see it as clearly as if it's right in front of you. He said, and not everybody sees it the same way. And you have to be more patient with that. And I know that you see out. Talk to me about that.
I'm, as I said, very fortunate. And my son was working in New York for 3 years as a bond trader or trader, and he came and said, "Is there a place for me at your company?" And he had interned for me in my company in the summers a couple times and understood our business. And I realized myself and one other person really does not make a firm, and that you have to have more people. You have to have longevity. You have to have people who could run the business if you weren't there. And so,
and your partner Dylan is fantastic. He's amazing.
Dylan's terrific. And so I felt like I have to grow a firm instead of just having myself and Dylan. And so adding Ryan is phenomenal. I mean, he's a grinder. So he's a grinder in everything he's done. And I would say that he and my kids and Susan have inspired me to work harder because they work so hard every day at what they do. And
apples and trees.
Yeah. So it's just a powerful thing to watch them because they've inspired me and they've wanted me to work harder by watching them and watching how hard they work for what they strive for. Where do I see I've always said, let the real estate happen. I think it's a bad thing to say, in 10 years, I want to have 2 million square feet and 40 deals instead of 20, because you can kind of force deals that might not be the right things for you. And so I feel like I'm very fortunate right now that when I find a real estate asset that I like, then that's the one we go after. But there's no forced funding. We have to get $100 million out or something like that. And so it's been very fortunate. And I would also say, somebody said to me a long time ago, I never thought of it, how do you source deals? And I was like, oh my God, like, again, I just have an amazing group of people out in the market who present ideas and present opportunities, and then we step through. And what makes us different, I think, is that we want people that we do business with to look good. So we don't wait till the last minute to try to screw people. We tell everybody where we are on a transaction all the time, and are very clear with that. We want everyone to succeed, and that means paying brokers immediately and all time. That means taking care of our contractors and having them loyal. Leroy Merritt used to always say, you want your contractors to want to do business with you, and you do that by paying them well and on time. He said, it's not your money once somebody's done the work, it's theirs, and they don't like you holding their money. So I feel like his way has always been my way, and he has been in my ear every single moment of the day since I left Merritt and started my own firm, because he just always wanted to do the right thing.
Can I interject one thing too, Steve? Something that you said to us as we were making our decision on this building, and I think you've probably had the same conversation with other people, and that is, emotion is one thing, numbers are another. The numbers either work or they don't. And some people can get really balled up into the emotional side of things. And I think that's probably true, not only for your business, but many others, as people make that very emotional decision to go out on their own.
I think it's so true. I had someone say to me recently, who's a partner, you know what, you walk away. Every once in a while, you'll tell us about a deal and we're working towards the deal. And then all of a sudden you'll tell us you walked away because something happened that you didn't like. And that you have to have the ability to walk away. And I mean, it's the exact same thing in what you do every day, Leo. Yeah. I mean, you can have 9 of the 10 things right, and the 10th thing is wrong, and it's wrong. I mean, I've watched dear friends who bought assets that just had one thing wrong, like there wasn't enough parking,
right?
And that made the project unsuccessful.
Right.
So you have to be true to the things you believe make or break your assets. So I think we have a lot of similarities there.
Okay. I have one more point, and I think this is going to tell the world out there who Steve Shaw is. And I think this is...
Does it have to do with Italian food?
It almost.
Okay.
So if you don't know it, Steve is a world-class tailgater. And Steve, tell me about a cheesesteak.
Oh God!
I mean, what is the right way to make a cheesesteak? Because I mean, you have a passion for it. I think it translates to family and real estate and everything else.
I think if you're gonna do something, you got to do it right. And when you asked me that question, I got chills. Okay. So number one, I'm fortunate enough to have about a 250-pound Bazurba meat slicer that I haul out and put in my kitchen, and I lightly freeze about 15 pounds of ribeye I slice it so thin you could read the New York Times on it if you really wanted to read the New York Times.
Like the old silly putty, you just paste it down.
Yeah. And so we slice that up. We take it the night before a tailgate, and we saute it on a flat top at home with banana peppers, pepper jack cheese and provolone, salt, pepper, a little spice, and then we put it in tins. And the next day we pick up 40 Wawa Amorosa rolls from Philadelphia, and we go to the tailgate and we heat those babies up on a flat top with some more cheese on it, and put it on an Amorosa roll and cut it up fresh. And that's how you make a cheesesteak. You keep it simple, and you got to produce. But I don't like, I really don't like to fool around with it. I don't like to do it any other way than the way I think is the right way to do it.
So for everybody out there, I'm going to finish on that note. If you want to know why Steve Shaw is successful, if you want to know why I am a proud partner in Steve Shaw's business, you just heard it, because his passion for cheesesteaks is parallel to his passion for his business, to the charitable work in the community he does, and to his family. And I couldn't be more proud to be a partner, and more importantly, a friend. Steve, just congratulations on a magnificent career.
Thank you. And I think the friendships, you get your family and you pick your friends. And right. I think surrounding yourself with great people is really the key to life, because they inspire you to great things. Right. I sat at a table, and this is maybe 10 years ago, when I was with Scott Brickman and my dear friend Brooks Pierce, and they were talking about how they each started their own business. Right. And I sat there and I said to myself, man, you got to take the leap. Right. You got to have faith in yourself, and God will help you. That's right. One way or another get through this. But again, it's taking a leap of faith and believing in yourself and your family and your friends, and all that you do every day. Yeah.
Well, Lord knows we've both been through that. And that's when you do it and you're focused and you work hard, pretty rewarding on the other end.
It's amazing. It's been life-changing in a million different ways.
That's wonderful. Well, I want to thank Steve Shaw for coming in today and giving us some insights. This was a great conversation, and I really appreciate having it. I want to thank everybody for listening and or watching from the ground up. And again, as I got to make sure my thumbs up for Michelle, I'm going to encourage everybody to subscribe on all the major sources: Spotify, Apple. Am I missing anything? YouTube, of course.
On our website, you can also see every episode on our website.
And every episode on our website. And obviously this is going to be a good one. Steve, thanks very much for coming.
Thanks, Leo. Thanks, Michelle. You all are awesome.
Thanks, Steve.